Hello everyone, JD here, and I just wanted to share a slightly different update for you this week. I've been in London the past 2 days and I travelled down to meet with other CEOs from across the nation who all work in the sight loss sector. So the last time I'd seen these individuals was back in November, and it was a really good opportunity to see what kind of works are happening in different communities across the country, and it was nice to kind of re-engage and pick up our conversations. And today I'm at a separate workshop with some of those attendees, which is all focused around leadership and management skills. It's been really interesting, lots of challenging and creative conversations around what we do and how we approach certain issues and challenges that we have working within sensory loss field. I'll be travelling back overnight tonight, so I'll be back tomorrow, but very much look forward to catching up with all of you again as soon as possible and into next week. But for now, take care.
Here is this week's charity news for the 20th of March 2026. Swimming at Medina is on Monday between 1:15 p.m. and 2 p.m. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim lanes or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you will be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
Coffee and Chat is on Wednesday starting at 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and demonstrate equipment.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House. This group enjoys crafts, quizzes and entertainment. If you would like to put your name down on the list, please call the office.
We are hoping to start our tandem biking now the weather is warming up and the sun is shining. If you fancy a go on a tandem, please do not hesitate to call the office and we can arrange a suitable time.
On Friday, we are taking our book donations to Tesco in Ryde for a 2-week period. We would like preferably paperback and children's books. Please ask family and friends if they have any that they are willing to donate to us. This is a great fundraiser for us and we appreciate any donations given.
Our knitted Easter novelties are now on sale here at Millbrook House, Gurnard Press, the Crown Inn Shorewell, Bryston Stores, Tandem Tea Rooms and Tide Mill, formerly the Sloop. We are asking for a donation of £2.50 for our small Cadbury egg novelties, which are gift-bagged individually. We also have a limited amount of chocolate orange Easter novelties for a donation of £4.
We have an Easter raffle running. Squares are £1 each. We have lots of lovely prizes and the draw will take place on April the 1st during Coffee and Chat. If you would like to purchase some tickets, please call the office or pop into the office and purchase some.
England's epic coast path opens this week and what it means for the Isle of Wight walkers. From the Isle of Wight Radio, read by Lee. A brand new coastal walking stretching around the entire coastline of England is being officially launched, and it's set to be a game changer for walkers, including those here on the Isle of Wight. The King Charles III England Coast Path spans an incredible 2,689 miles, making it the longest managed coastal walking route anywhere in the world. For the first time, it creates a continuous trail, meaning you can reach the coast almost anywhere in England, turn left or right, and simply keep walking with the sea by your side. While the Isle of Wight already boasts its own famous coastal path, the new mainland route opens up even more opportunities for island residents looking to explore beyond the Solent, whether that's a day trip or a longer walking adventure. The path takes in some of England's most stunning scenery, from sandy beaches and salt marshes to dramatic cliffs and historic seaside towns. Highlights include the striking white cliffs of the Seven Sisters in East Sussex, now also part of a newly designated National Nature Reserve. Although much of the route follows existing footpaths, over 1,000 miles of brand new trail have been created. Sections have been upgraded too, with better services, new boardwalks, bridges, and improved accessibility, making most of the coastline open to everyone, including those with reduced mobility. The project has been nearly 2 decades in the making, first proposed under Gordon Brown's government and taking 18 years to reach this stage. Around 80% of the route is now open, with the remainder expected to be completed by the end of the year. One of the biggest changes is increased public access. In many areas, walkers can now explore stretches of coast that were previously off limits, including beaches, dunes, and cliff tops. The route has also been designed with the future in mind. As coastal erosion and rising sea levels reshape the shoreline, parts of the path can be moved inland, a process known as rollback, ensuring the trail remains usable for years to come. For island walkers, the new path also connects into a much bigger picture. It links with the Wales Coast Path, meaning it's now possible to walk vast, uninterrupted stretches of the British coastline. In theory, a full coastal walk around Britain could total around 9,000 miles. Whether you're a seasoned hiker or just enjoy a seaside stroll, the message is simple. Britain's coastline has never been more accessible. And for those on the Isle of Wight, a whole new world of walking is now just a ferry ride away.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Isle of Wight to receive over £2.3 million for new flood defences. The Isle of Wight is set to benefit from more than £2.3 million for new and upgraded flood defences, part of the government's £830 million national investment in flood schemes for 2026 to 27. The Environment Agency announced on Tuesday, the 17th of March. This funding is part of a record £10.5 billion flood resilient programme running from 2024 to 2036, the largest in England's history. Across the country, over 600 schemes will receive funding next year, protecting around 29,000 homes and businesses. On the Isle of Wight, 3 projects will be supported. 1 Property Flood Resilience PFR scheme, improving protections for homes vulnerable to repeated flooding. 2 capital maintenance projects, ensuring essential flood infrastructure remains safe, effective and ready for severe weather. More than £100,000 of the funding will go directly to property-level flood resilience in Isle of Wight West, helping communities better cope with intense rainfall and storm events in recent years. Isle of Wight West MP Richard Quigley welcomed the announcement. Time and time again, our community has been let down by inadequate flooding provision, with real consequences for families and small businesses. £2.3 million for the island is not a small amount, and I'm really pleased the government has listened to the concerns I've raised. This funding will make a meaningful difference to communities across the Isle of Wight. Floods Minister Emma Hardy added, "Flooding can turn lives upside down in a matter of hours, destroying homes, shutting down businesses, and leaving communities facing months of recovery. This investment will help protect tens of thousands of homes and businesses across the country, strengthen defences and make communities safer. It also supports jobs and unlocks new homes and businesses in areas made safer from flooding." The funding aims to ensure the island's flood defences are resilient and ready to face increasingly severe weather, giving households and businesses greater protection for the future.
Dog owners warned after suspected poisoning incident in Parkhurst Forest. From the Island Echo, read by Lee. Dog owners are being urged to remain vigilant after animals were treated by a vet after ingesting suspected poison in Parkhurst Forest earlier this week. The dogs were taken ill on Tuesday evening after eating a substance believed to have been left in the area, although it is not known when the material was originally placed. The owners returned to the forest today, Wednesday, to remove as much of the suspected poison as possible and have since put up warning signs to alert others. Island Echo understands that Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary has been informed. Dog walkers are being advised to keep pets under close control and remain cautious while in the area. A similar incident occurred back in February 2023 when one dog died and another suffered a seizure. It was in November 2020 that police launched an investigation after rat poison was located around the Marks Corner area of Parkhurst Forest, causing immense pain and suffering to animals.
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Apollo Theatre Players announce next production, A Midsummer Night's Dream. The Apollo Theatre Players have announced their next production, Shakespeare's beloved comedy, A Midsummer Night's Dream, set to take to the stage later this month. The Apollo Theatre Players are delighted to announce their next production, Shakespeare's iconic play, A Midsummer Night's Dream. You probably know the story. Two pairs of lovers are lost in a wood near Athens. Also in the wood are the fairy king and queen, who have fallen out big time and can't wait to do each other a mischief. And a group of workmen who are rehearsing a play to put on at the King of Athens' forthcoming wedding. The fairy king puts a spell on various characters to make them fall in and out of love with inappropriate people, and the play details the confusion that follows. It's funny, fast-moving, complicated, and full of some of the most beautiful language in Shakespeare's canon. If you don't know it, you're in for a treat. If you do, the director has some interesting ideas for an extravaganza of love, comedy, song and dance. So conventional it won't be. The production will run from the 27th of March to the 4th of April 2026. Tickets can be booked online at www.apollo-theatre.org.uk or by calling the box office on 01983 210 010.
This is the second part of the Talking News, read by Sam
And Valerie. Good morning.
We begin with more news items taken from the County Press and the Observer, starting with an article headlined, Council breached own rules at Caravan Park. The Isle of Wight Council has admitted causing a breach of its own planning rules by housing homeless families in caravans meant only for holiday use, the County Press can reveal. But the council has confirmed it will not take formal enforcement action against the park or itself, as it is not in the public interest to do so. As well as being a unitary authority, providing all local government services, the Isle of Wight Council is also the Local Planning Authority, LPA. This makes it responsible for managing development, processing planning applications, and enforcing planning rules. As previously reported, Sunnycock Caravan Park in Cowes is paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a year by the council to provide temporary housing. Last month, February, families living at the park spoke out against the inhumane conditions. Currently, there are 18 families housed in the site's 21 static caravans. One resident, Ros Reed, 46, told the county press she had been there for around 2 years after her landlord sold her flat. Meanwhile, Abigail Cable, 37, has been there for more than 9 months with her 4 children, the youngest of whom is 1.5. Not only have concerns been raised about the conditions, but also that the caravan park is being used for residential use, when it only has planning permission for holiday use. After concerns were flagged, the council said an investigation took place and concluded that breaches of planning control are occurring on the site. A spokesperson said that planning enforcement action is discretionary, however, and in this case the council, as the LPA, has decided not to take action. The council spokesperson said, "The LPA does not consider formal enforcement action was expedient in this instance. However, this position will be under review, and should these breaches continue and alternative accommodation is not secured in a timely manner, there may be a need to consider formal enforcement action." The spokesperson added, "There is an immediate homelessness need the council is addressing, but a commitment to secure more appropriate accommodation for the individuals involved as soon as possible." The county press questioned why the LPA was not taking action. We asked if it was because the council is the LPA and whether the same treatment would be given to a third party.
A burglar who bit an ear and stole charity tin is spared jail, by a court reporter. A burglar who bit a man's ear in a fight and stole £800 worth of fragrances and an RSPCA charity tin has been spared jail. Kieran Thompson, of no fixed address, appeared at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on Friday, March the 13th. At a previous hearing, Thompson pleaded guilty to 2 counts of burglary, resulting in theft, and 1 count of burglary with intent to steal. He also previously admitted 1 count of assault. At his most recent hearing, the bench were asked to take 6 other offences into account at the sentencing, including theft of a phone, theft of a motor vehicle, and fraud by false representation. Prosecutor Serena Edwards told magistrates of the incident on July the 26th, 2025 in Ventnor, where Thompson walked up to his victim, of which he had met twice before, shouting before slapping him. There was then a further altercation, and Thompson got his victim in a headlock, biting him on the right side of the neck and his right ear. He then fled onto a bus, the court heard, but his victim also boarded the same bus and a fight broke out. Thompson hit the victim again, leaving him in a lot of pain. On December the 12th, Thompson entered Gibbs and Gurnall Ride with a carrier bag and took a large number of fragrances worth between £800 to £900, the court heard. On December the 30th, the defendant used a hammer to smash a window at the Dell Cafe in Puckpool, stealing an RSPCA charity tin containing about £4. He then entered Yelf's Hotel on Union Street, Ryde, half an hour later and tried and failed to take the till. Defending, Oscar Vincent said Thompson had complex learning difficulties, mental health and health needs, but argued he could be managed in the community. He said Thompson had been in custody since the start of January, the equivalent of a 20-week prison sentence. After a lengthy retirement, the bench handed Thompson a 4-month prison sentence, suspended for 18 months. He was also handed an 18-month community order, 15 rehabilitation days, and told to take part in mental health and drug rehabilitation. He was also ordered to pay £200 in compensation, Gibbs and Gurnall, and £4 to the Delph Cafe.
Highest possible rating for youth justice services. The Isle of Wight Youth Justice Service, YJS, has achieved the highest possible rating. YJS has been awarded Quadrant 1 status under the National Oversight Framework, following an assessment by the YJB's Performance Oversight Board. The YJB's Performance Oversight Board praised the Isle of Wight team for sustained progress in data quality, service delivery, and strong partnership working. It also commended the team's leadership in embedding the Child First framework and highlighted its continued focus on the needs of children, families, and the communities you serve. Ashley Whitaker, Strategic Director for Children's Services at the Isle of Wight Council and Chair of the island's Youth Justice Board, said, "To move from a third quadrant position 2 years ago to a Quadrant 1 today is a remarkable accomplishment and a clear reflection of the team's skill, commitment, and determination. The service has worked tirelessly to improve outcomes for children, families, and victims on the island. Their creativity, their problem solving, and their willingness to embrace new approaches have all played a major part in this success. This recognition is well deserved, and while we know there is still more to do, including strengthening specialist support for children, today's achievement shows just how far the team has come. I am confident they will continue to build on this success in the months and years ahead." The YJB also expressed an intention to share the island's approach with other youth justice teams across the country. Ruth Hales, Service Lead for Contextual Safeguarding and Youth Justice, said, "This recognition means a great deal to the whole team. Our focus has always been on supporting children and young people to make positive changes in their lives, and to see that work acknowledged nationally is incredibly rewarding. We've strengthened our partnerships, invested in high-quality practice, and continually refined how we respond to risks and vulnerabilities in young people's lives. Most importantly, we have listened to children and families and adapted our approach to meet their needs more efficiently. We are proud of how far we have come, and we remain absolutely committed to doing even more."
Key milestone met as £1.3 billion devolution investment nears. The creation of a new authority with a £1.3 billion investment fund for the region has reached a key milestone. Legislation was laid in Parliament on Monday to allow the Hampshire and the Solent Combined County Authority to be established. Once set up in the coming months, the authority will have devolved powers from central government to focus on areas such as transport, skills and employment, housing and strategic planning and economic developments. Councils will continue to run day-to-day services such as social care, waste management and road maintenance. Councils on the island and in Hampshire, Portsmouth and Southampton are working together to finalise the operational framework for the combined authority. Phil Jordan, Isle of Wight Council leader, said, "This strategic investment gives the Isle of Wight a once-in-a-generation chance to shape its own destiny. For the first time, we will have the resources and the influence to drive the changes our island has long deserved. Better connections, new skills, good homes and opportunities that keep our young people here. Through the new combined county authority, we can unlock the island's creativity, resilience and community spirit like never before. This is more than funding, it is confidence in our future. Together we can and will build an Isle of Wight that is thriving, hopeful and leading its own story with pride." Southampton City Council leader Alex Winning described it as a landmark moment. Meanwhile, Nick Adams-King, Hampshire County Council leader, said it presents a huge opportunity, and Portsmouth City Council leader Steve Pitt said it can deliver real and lasting benefits. The combined authority will operate with a regional mayor until 2028, following the government's decision to delay the inaugural election for 2 years. Dr. Ruth Adams has been appointed the interim chief executive, while temporary staff are filling key roles, including chief financial officer and monitoring officer. The devolution deal for the combined authority includes annual investment funding of £44.6 million a year for 30 years. The government is handling down 40% of the allocation, minus £17.84 million for each of the 2 years before the mayor is elected.
Passengers told to reposition cars on ferry while on the move. Ferry company Whitelink is under investigation after passengers were asked to reposition their vehicles while a vessel was still moving into Portsmouth. The county press has been told that drivers were instructed to reposition their cars on board the Fishbourne to Portsmouth service while the ferry was still approaching the Gunwharf terminal. The incident happened on board St Clair during its final crossing of the day on Sunday, March the 8th. According to the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, MCA, safety protocols, passengers are expected to leave their vehicles once the ferry departs and remain in the designated passenger areas. Access to the vehicle deck is generally restricted until the vessel is fully alongside and secured to the berth. The rule is designed to reduce risk if an incident occurs while the ship is underway, such as a sudden manoeuvre or collision, which could leave people on the vehicle deck vulnerable to injury. Whitelink's own terms and conditions state that passengers must leave the vehicle decks before departure and not return while the ferry is underway unless instructed by the crew. In the company's online frequently asked questions, Whitelink states that, by law, all passengers must leave their vehicle during a ferry crossing, citing UK maritime safety regulations and guidance from the MCA. In a statement to the county press, Whitelink confirmed that a crew member had asked some customers to reposition their vehicles to enable a speedier disembarkation. A spokesperson said, "This action did not meet our normal high standards and should not have occurred." An internal incident report was raised by the crew, and the issue was also flagged to us by a customer. In response, we carried out a thorough internal investigation led by our head of fleet operations. Having reviewed CCTV footage and spoken to both the customer and crew members, we proactively reported the incident to the MCA ourselves. While we believe we have not contravened maritime law, this practice should not have taken place. We have sent out an all-fleet advisory bulletin to remind crews that vehicles should not be moved until the vessel has fully docked. An MCA spokesperson said the agency is currently investigating.
Ukrainian traffickers sent to jail by George Ratcliffe. 2 men have been jailed for running a premium people smuggling operation. Ukrainian nationals Vladislav Chernyavsky, 38, and Alexander Yavtushenko, 43, were sentenced to 6 and 5 years in prison, respectively, after pleading guilty to 3 charges of assisting unlawful immigration at Portsmouth Crown Court on March the 12th. The pair smuggled migrants across the English Channel from northern France to the English coast using a yacht named Euphoria on at least 8 crossings. Robin Leach, prosecutor, said Both defendants ferried the migrants across the English Channel from northern France to the English coast, in particular to Itchenor in Chichester Harbour. It was established some of the migrants paid up to €15,000. This was a premium bespoke service, and any one trip would involve 3 to 6 migrants being taken across the Channel. The yacht was intercepted off the Isle of Wight on July the 20th, 25, in a joint operation involving the National Crime Agency, the Border Force and French law enforcement, and escorted into Haslar Marina in Gosport. According to the National Crime Agency, 4 Albanian men and a Vietnamese girl were handed to immigration authorities. 3 of the 4 Albanian men applied for asylum, while the Vietnamese girl, who Mr. Leach described as very young, is now in the UK foster care. One migrant claimed they paid £16,000 to make the journey on the yacht, while another said they would have paid £13,000 on arrival. Judge William Ashworth described the operation as an insidious black market draining families of money and perpetuating the misery of illegal immigration, and said the pair were likely to be deported after their sentences. Evidence gathered by the NCA linked the yacht to additional crossings in the summer of 24 and 25, with the vessel making repeated visits to Brighton and other south coast marinas. Both men are likely to be deported after serving their sentences. Border Security Commander Maritime Charlie Eastall said these smugglers were driven solely by profit, charging tens of thousands of pounds for a luxury, illegal journey to the UK, which couldn't be further from reality.
Further 23 electric double-decker buses coming to the Isle of Wight. A further 23 double-decker electric buses are set to join the island's bus network by 2027, following new government funding. Southern Vectis, in partnership with the Isle of Wight Council, has successfully secured £3.6 million from the Department for Transport, DfT, towards the new vehicles. The funding builds on a previous award through the government's ZEBRA, Zero Emission Bus Regional Area scheme, which has already brought 31 electric buses to the island. Southern Vectis will also contribute £8.1 million towards the latest phase of the project. When the new buses arrive, the total number of electric vehicles operating on the island will reach 54, making up most of the main network fleet. The investment follows the recent unveiling of Southern Vectis' first fleet of electric double-deckers at its Newport depot. At an event held last month, the company showcased the UK-built Wright Bus Electroliner buses, which are due to begin carrying passengers after engineering checks and driver training. That first phase includes 22 new buses with 9 more set to follow, funded through a combination of DfT support, £10.7 million from Southern Vectis, and £733,000 from the Isle of Wight Council. Work to install the electric charging infrastructure at Southern Vectis' Nelson Road depot in Newport, needed to support the expanding fleet, has now been completed. The new buses, coming to the island by 2027, will operate on routes 2, 3 and 38. The order will also include 3 open-top electric double-deckers for the popular Needles Breezer service. This is a significant moment for transport on the Isle of Wight, turning almost our entire main network buses into a zero-emissions fleet, said Southern Vectis Managing Director Ed Wills. The new investment will further drive our mission to put this electric island right at the forefront of sustainable transport. These new buses will help to improve air quality across the island, while also giving passengers modern, high-quality buses for their journeys. Richard Quigley, MP for Isle of Wight West, said, "Following the recent investment in Southern Vectis, I'm genuinely delighted that the island is receiving yet more support for its bus network."
Nightclub is to move after a £150,000 dispute over roof. A nightclub will move to a new location in Newport after a dispute over the current venue's roof. Blondies on Newport High Street opened in November 25, offering 80s themed nights and a restaurant. However, those behind the nightclub, Richard and Laura Bradshaw, decided to withhold the rent from the landlord after the roof had come in. Richard said the landlord refused to pay for the damage, which was valued at £150,000 plus VAT, according to quotes sourced by Richard. He said the damage is on the left side of the building, where the roof has taken on a brown colour. Richard said, "We will be moving. We have had the roof come in and the landlord is not paying for it. You can imagine, if I have got a place absolutely packed with people, it could kill people." Richard said he got several quotes from the builders for the extent of the damage before deciding to part from the building and move out. Rent was withheld due to the dispute, Richard said, and around £30,000 was spent on signage and fixtures which cannot be recouped. He confirmed Blondies is staying on the Isle of Wight and is here to stay, and the nightclub's new venue will be announced shortly. The county press visited Blondies today and spoke to the landlord, who pointed out the damage to the roof. He claims the roof repairs would not cost anywhere near £150,000 and says the damage is confined to a small area. The locks have now been changed and the building is empty. The county press understands a lease between the two parties was not finalised.
Arson attack and vandalism shuts up toilets. An arson attack and vandalism at a public toilet has been slammed as mindless by a councillor. The Lake Slipway toilets were subject to an attack, resulting in extensive damage to the facilities and their temporary closure. Photos of the incident show toilet roll dispensers destroyed and residue from a fire strewn across the floor. Lake Parish Council said vandals had kicked in the door to the toilets and damaged the cubicles. Councillor Paul Brading said, "This is another example of mindless vandalism in Lake and across the bay, and the costs financially and potential costs if the fire spread is significant, and we will work with the police and other agencies to hold those responsible to account. Thanks to the contractors for putting the fire out and making the facility safe temporarily, while we will maintain the ladies' toilet as a unisex facility and will try and reopen as soon as we can. The toilets are now closed for urgent repairs and are hoped to be reopened by Easter."
Mum's fear of being head-butted by her son during a kitchen row by a court reporter. A 75-year-old woman was left terrified in the belief her son was about to headbutt her during a confrontation at her home, a court was told. Joshua Wright of Pier Street, Tower Hamlets, London, appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates' Court. The 38-year-old admitted common assault and causing criminal damage during the incident on October the 20th last year. Wright, an unemployment labourer, had been staying with his mother when an argument broke out over her refusal to let him use her car to travel to a probation meeting in Newport. She had already placed money on the table for a bus fare, but Wright became increasingly agitated, telling her to shut up and stop interfering in his business. and Giles Fletcher prosecuting, and as the row escalated right through a hallway mirror across the room. Although it was not aimed directly at his mother, the act startled her and added to the tension. The most frightening moment came in the kitchen, the court heard, when Wright cornered his mother and thrust his head forward in what she believed was a deliberate attempt to headbutt her. Fearing what might happen next and scared of her son's actions, she dialed 999. She later told police she was certain the blow would have connected if she had not moved her head in time. In her victim's statement, she said she struggled to believe her son would have treated her that way. The court heard Wright has a history of violence, including a 16-month prison sentence in 21 for inflicting actual bodily harm on a former partner. Last year, he was also convicted of assault after throwing a shoe at a teenage girl. Nick Muir, defending, said Wright's temper was triggered when his mother mentioned his children. He said Wright suffers from mental health issues and felt remorse, noting no injury was caused. Magistrates imposed a 14-month probation order alongside an existing 18-month order. Wright was also fined £120 with £85 costs and a £114 surcharge. A 14-month restraining order bans him from his mother's address.
Felled oak tree may not be replaced in same place. A felled oak tree on a seafront will be replaced, but it may not be at the exact same location, the council has said. The tree, near Apley Beach Cafe, was removed on Wednesday after it was found to be in decay and dangerously leaning. The council insists its removal was unfortunate, but necessary for health and safety reasons. Asked whether a new tree would be planted in its place, the council said it may not be possible. A spokesperson said, "The extent of below-ground decay and the compromised root system mean that the ground conditions may not safely support a new tree at that spot." Now the tree has been removed, the council said it will assess the area and ensure that the park entrance remains welcoming, attractive, and well maintained. Whatever happens, it said 2 new trees will be planted within the Apley area to replace the loss of the oak. The spokesperson said it will be in addition to investment already made earlier this year. On February the 26th, 9 new trees were planted at other locations within Apley Park, including a pin oak, 2 silver birch, 2 Turkish hazels, a wild cherry, 2 common aspens, and a common alder.
Attraction to Roar Back by William Dalgleish. One of the island's most cherished cultural assets, the Dinosaur Isle Museum, has reopened after a £500,000 regeneration project. The Sandown Seafront attraction has undergone essential repairs and upgrades. The project was funded through the Museum Estate and Development Fund, MEND, led by the Arts Council England, with an additional £180,000 from the Isle of Wight Council. Julie Jones-Evans, councillor responsible for the council's economy, regeneration, transport and infrastructure, said, "Dinosaur Isle is one of the island's most cherished cultural assets, and I'm delighted to see it reopening with the care and investment it deserves. These essential works not only protect an irreplaceable fossil collection, but also enhance the experience for everyone who walks through the doors. This is a great step forward for Sandown Seafront and for our wider heritage and tourism offer. Refurbishment works have delivered a new roof, upgraded heating and air conditioning, and improved gallery lighting to help protect and showcase the museum's nationally important collection of 35,000 fossil specimens. Among the highlights is the fossil of Styracosaurus, the island's newest named dinosaur, a sail-back plant eater identified just weeks before the museum closed for repairs in early 25. Dinosaur Isle's newly appointed curator and general manager, Dr. David Button, said, "I'm honoured to be taking care of the museum's world-class fossil collection. The Dinosaur Isle team are delighted to invite the public back to discover over 130 million years of the Isle's history." Emmy Kell, the Director of Museums and Cultural Property at Art Councils England, said, "Sandown's Dinosaur Isle cares for one of Britain's most important fossil collections, a uniquely rich and important record of life on the Isle of Wight, spanning more than 130 million years. We're proud to support essential improvements that help safeguard these unique specimens and ensure they remain accessible to residents, researchers and visitors alike. The museum will open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tuesdays to Saturday. It will be open daily from March the 30th to April the 10th during the Easter holidays.
Beach is among the best in the UK. An island beach with one of the best sunsets on the Solent has been named among the UK's best to visit. Colwell Bay was featured alongside 10 others in a list from The Independent, which was looking ahead to the best spots to visit when the weather warms up a bit more. The publication's travel team picked out their favourite stretches of sandy, pebble and dune-backed beaches. The full list of the UK's best beaches can be found on the Independent website. Colwell Bay was the only spot on the list from the Isle of Wight, with it highlighted thanks to its numerous features and opportunities for activities. It can be found not too far away from freshwater on the northwestern coast of the island. Discussing its qualities, writer Natalie Wilson shared, "Beach huts sandwich Colwell's slipway with wetsuits, inflatables and deck chairs, which are available to hire during the summer season. There's also a rainbow of bodyboards, should swimmers tire of treading the turquoise. Off the sand, there's traditional seaside scampi and chips from Captain's Cabin, and high-end fisherman fare meets live music at sailing set favourite The Hut. Stay late to catch one of the best sunsets on the Solent from this quietly cool swathe in West Wight." Colwell Bay is also highlighted for its spectacular views by Visit Isle of Wight, who also shared it was an ideal beach for swimming. They added, "Included in the panoramic views from here across the Solent is the striking Hurst Castle, and just along the island coast to the right you can spy the former Victorian gun tower of Fort Albert. This is an ideal place to see yachts sailing by on the Solent waters, as the gap between the Isle of Wight and the mainland at this point is relatively narrow. The Hut is a well-regarded restaurant in the centre of Colwell Bay that has helped earn the beach's favour. Established in 2013, it has transformed from a beach bar to a spot with delicious food and a buzzing atmosphere. Colwell Bay has been well rated by visitors, earning a 4.4 out of 5 score on TripAdvisor from 186 reviews.
Trader in the Spotlight, still going strong after 87 years by Alex Cooper. A luggage shop thought to be one of Newport's longest serving stores is still going strong 87 years on. George Bull and Son on Newport High Street is this week's County Press Trader in the Spotlight. Run by the third generation of the same family, the shop supplies bags and suitcases for islanders travelling all over the world. Established in 1939, it is one of the longest-serving shops in the town. Andrew Bull, George's grandson, worked at the shop since 1984 and took on running the shop when his father Ivan Bull retired in 1997. The shop moved from St James Square in 1982 to its current premises at the top of the High Street. A specialist luggage shop, George Bull & Son has supplied bags, suitcases and travel goods to customers for many decades. Andrew said, "There's not many high street shops that specialise like we do. We get lots of visitors and they haven't got a specialist luggage shop. It's a nice trade to be in. Our business doesn't fluctuate a lot. Fortunately for us, people travel 52 weeks a year, and that's where most of our business is done." Andrew provides customers with his own expertise, knowing the measurements and restrictions for different airlines and recommending luggage to ensure for a smooth journey. Once he even recognised some luggage he sold when he was abroad. Andrew said, "I was in a cafe in Gibraltar and a bloke turned round and said, 'You should recognise it, Mr. Bull. I bought them from you 2 weeks ago.'" Andrew said he finds his job fulfilling, enjoying his interactions with customers and providing the service. He said, "That's what people like. They come in and I will help them out. I enjoy it. I have got no ideas of retirement. I like coming into work and talking to people."
Bricklayer steals from shop twice. A bricklayer stole from the same Co-op store twice after forgetting to pay for his lunch, a court has heard. Michael Barnes, 36, of Newport Road in Ventnor, appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court, where he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of theft. Prosecutor Varun Chooney said that on July the 29th last year, Barnes entered the Co-op on Pier Street, Ventnor, and took 2 bacon rolls from the hot food counter, valued at £7. On August the 14th, he returned and stole Costa coffees, protein shakes, bananas, and apples worth £21.45. He owes more than £5,000 in outstanding court fines and fees. Defending, Oscar Vincent said Barnes had been working as a bricklayer on a major building project in Ventnor. His contractor had been paying for his lunch, with costs put onto a business expenses bank account. Mr. Vincent said his client did not recall the thefts, but had been visiting the shop daily for more than a month to buy lunch. When he later became aware of the offences, he returned to the Co-op to apologise and asked to pay for the items, but was told court proceedings had started. He must pay a £40 fine, £28.45 compensation, court costs and a surcharge.
A restaurant is reopening to bring a taste of France by Olive Dyer. A restaurateur from New York and a French chef are hoping to bring a taste of Brittany to the island as they look to reopen a once popular seaside eatery. Hema Lachan and husband Alexandra Borgio are preparing to take over the bandstand in Sandown. The couple, who recently moved to the island with their family, came across the bandstand and, recognising how special it is, they decided to bring it back to life as a restaurant. They are renaming the business Les Gouttes de la Mer, which translates to the Taste of the Sea, and are leasing the building on Culver Parade from the owner, Paul Rowling. Helen says it feels less like taking over a building and more like being given the honour of continuing something that means a lot to the town. Our hope is to bring it back to life with warmth, good food and a welcoming atmosphere where people can gather, celebrate and make new memories. Alex, a chef trained in classical French cuisine, is originally from Saint-Malo in Brittany, France, while Helen is originally from New York and previously owned a restaurant centred around Caribbean flavours. Together, they say, they hope to bring the flavours and spirit of Brittany to Sandown, with a touch of our own story and experience in hospitality. They said, we look forward to opening the doors again and welcoming the Isle of Wight community to Les Groutes de la Mer at the bandstand. It is hoped the restaurant will open in a couple of weeks, although this is a subject to change. Until last year, the bandstand was under the management of the team behind Off the Rails in Yarmouth. It suddenly closed last year, leaving Paul at a loss. Paul and his late wife Donna rescued the 100-year-old bandstand building back in 2014 after it had stood derelict for decades, having formerly been a cafe in the 1970s. The pair breathed new life into the venue and it opened as the bandstand in 2015. After 7 successful years, they decided it was time to move on. The business closed its doors under their stewardship in March of 23.
Women's initiative launches with strong support. A new women's initiative has launched on the island with strong early support. The debut event for island women was held at the Island Sailing Club in Cowes and attracted more than 70 women, featuring talks from High Sheriff Jacqueline Gazzard, UKSA Chief Executive Catherine Dixon, and author and Professor of Architecture Lorraine Farrelly. The initiative has been set up by broadcaster and writer Cheryl Buggy, who has been coming to the island on and off since she was a teenager, and now calls it home, having moved here full-time 5 years ago. She was a familiar voice on Cowes Week Radio for over 20 years, and is the co-founder of one of the longest-running community radio stations in the UK, Express FM. She said, I wanted to set up a series of podcasts and live events to share the positive and inspirational stories of the many amazing women who live or work on the island. The fact that so many women came to the first event and gave such positive feedback shows that such an initiative is welcome and needed, which is great. Ms. Gazzard said, sometimes you don't know how much you need an initiative until you are enjoying it. We have so many amazing women on this island, and it was an absolute joy being in their company. Thank you, Cheryl.
Now we come to the heritage. 100 Years of Fishbourne Ferry by William Dalgleish. For 100 years, the ferry route between Portsmouth and Fishbourne has done more than carry passengers across the Solent. From reuniting families and supporting local businesses to welcoming visitors, this connection across the Solent has become part of the island's story. The route, first introduced in March 26, began life as a modest operation run by the Southern Railway Company. In its earliest days, passengers and cargo made the crossing on board wooden craft towed by a tug, a far cry from the modern ferries that glide across the Solent today. Even so, the Solent quickly proved its value. As travel to and from the island grew, so did the demand for a reliable vehicle ferry. By July 1927, a purpose-built car ferry was in operation, capable of carrying 16 cars and around 100 passengers. At a time when car ownership was still relatively rare, it marked the beginning of a new era for island transport. During the Second World War, the route took on an even more important role, with Portsmouth serving as one of Britain's main naval bases and the Isle of Wight heavily involved in wartime industry and defence. Ferries were vital for moving workers, supplies and essential goods between the island and the mainland. Despite the risks posed by air raids and wartime restrictions, services continued, helping maintain a crucial link to the island. And over the decades that followed, the Portsmouth to Fishbourne crossing became the island's busiest gateway. The growth of tourism, combined with the increasing need for everyday travel between the island and mainland, meant ferries were soon running frequently throughout the day. Today the route is operated by Whitelink and remains the company's busiest service. Modern vessels now carry hundreds of vehicles and large numbers of passengers on each sailing, completing the journey in around 45 minutes. The crossing has evolved with the times, with recent investment bringing improved terminals, faster boarding systems, and more environmentally efficient vehicles designed to reduce emissions while maintaining the frequent service that islanders depend on. One of the most recognisable ships on the route today is England's first hybrid-powered ferry, the Victoria of Wight, introduced in 2018. The ferry combines conventional engines with battery power, helping cut fuel consumption while offering improved passenger facilities. As the crossing marks its centenary, it stands as a reminder that some journeys are more than just about simply reaching the other side.
For 100 years, innovation, continuity, and endurance have quietly helped keep island life connected, one sailing at a time. March the 15th, 1926. Tug Ada 2 in service, pulling 3 wooden tow boats. June 1927, the MV Fishbourne enters service, carrying 16 cars and around 100 passengers. June 1928, second vessel, the MV Wootton, enters service. 1939, World War II, the 3 ferries now in operation are painted grey and given reinforced wheelhouse roofs. June 1940, MV Fishbourne and MV Wootton are sent to Ramsgate to assist with Operation Dynamo, the evacuation of Dunkirk. July 1961, new mainland terminal opens at Camber Docks in Portsmouth with space for 120 cars. Fishbourne is also upgraded with a new slipway. 1963, night sailings introduced for the first time. 1970, the British Rail Shipping Division trades as Sealink. 1973, the route now has a 4-ship service. 1977, mezzanine decks fitted to 2 ferries to increase capacity. 1979, 4-year modernisation programme underway, with 2 new super ferries and link spans replacing slipways. June 1982, new Gunwharf port opened. 1983 to 1987, 3 new ferries enter service: St Catherine, St Helen and St Cecilia. 1990, the 4th super ferry St Faith enters service, operated by the renamed Sealink British Ferries. November 1990, Whitelink is officially launched as a company. 2001, the St Clair enters service. 2016, St Clair's car deck extended to enable double deck loading. 2017, Fishbourne and Gunwharf link spans upgraded to enable double deck loading. 2018, in an England first, the Victoria of Wight was launched, powered by hybrid battery technology. 2020, services reduced to essential travel only during the pandemic. 2022, services return to normal after COVID-19 restrictions are lifted. 2026, the Portsmouth to Fishbourne crossing celebrates its centenary.
The Wight in Westminster. Joe Robertson MP, the Conservative MP for the Isle of Wight East. He says, too many over 50s are being written off when it comes to the workplace, which is leading to a midlife crisis in our economy. Over 2 million 50 to 64-year-olds are now on out-of-work benefits, the highest level on record. We often think about younger people out of work, but this affects people towards the other end of their working life too. That's why I'm pleased to have been appointed as a commissioner to the Beyond Midlife Commission, set up by the Centre for Policy Studies think tank, alongside broadcasters Penny Lancaster and Angela Rippon, and well-being entrepreneur Liz Earle. We have been tasked with developing practical, deliverable solutions for government and Parliament that help people stay in or returning to fulfilling work, and thereby unlocking growth across the country. Older workers bring decades of skills, insight and experience, and a rise in employment could generate billions in tax revenue and savings, as well as cutting and ballooning the welfare budget. The Isle of Wight perfectly demonstrates both the challenges and opportunities presented from an ageing population demographic, and I will be using local examples to inform the Commission's work. Alongside this national work, I am organising an East Wight Jobs Training and Careers Fair on Friday, April the 18th, aimed at people at all stages of working life, plus those still in education. Invitations have gone out to all the major education establishments, but it is open to the public, and I would encourage anyone thinking about work, training, or a career change at whatever stage of life to come along and meet with local employers and education providers. It will take place at the Broadway Centre in Sandown, where there is parking with doors open to the public from 3 to 5:30 p.m. Stall holders will include Southern Water, the NHS, ferry operators, Visit Isle of Wight, Community Action, Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust, HTP Apprenticeship College, Isle of Wight College, the police and others. I look forward to seeing people, as many people there as possible, for what should be a useful and informative event.
My Town Needs a Creative Hub Like Ventnor's by Josh Barry. Recently I went to London to see the sharp-witted writer and comedian Marcus Brigstock's latest stand-up show, Vitruvian Mango, at the Leicester Square Theatre in the heart of the West End. It was a Thursday night and the city was alive with the bustle of people out for a good time. So many venues boasting a wonderful variety of entertainment in a half-mile radius is something totally alien to the residents of the island, who are just awakening from the slumber of a long winter. Indeed, Ventnor Exchange seems the only local venue that is anywhere close to the regular entertainment taking place around vibrant hotbeds throughout the country. To me, this is a sad irony for the county that boasts more creativity per mile than any other. Supported by Arts Council of England, Ventnor Exchange offers a wide variety of events throughout the year, from creative writing workshops to open mic nights. The recognised hub of the world-famous annual Ventnor Fringe each July, there's a definite buzz to the place every time you visit. It's obvious that Mari and Jack, the founders of Ventnor Exchange, have found a formula that works for their demographic, but it also raises the question about the potential to replicate this attitude on a smaller scale in other parts of the island. I live on the northern side of the island, and therefore Ventnor isn't so easy to access. But why can't we have a self-contained creative ecosystem in Cowes or East Cowes? This is exactly what Building 41 in Newport Road is attempting to achieve by putting together a full programme of creative classes which appeal to this demographic. Interactivity is a great tool in offering people occupation and gratification, but I feel that we still lack a creative hub for similar minds to gather and exchange thoughts and create a spark. There are so many defunct or untouched buildings in Cowes which could be used as a base for writers, artists, poets or actors, and I feel it's such a shame that such an opportunity doesn't exist. We are a small community, and it's obvious that we are proud to celebrate what we do, from the impressive turnout to the annual Isle of Wight Jamboree. Yet such a community would only be made stronger by having a regular dedicated hub we could call our own. Creative industries are difficult to quantify. We don't deal in units or concrete objects. Yet arguably the creative sector remains one of the most important in everyday life, and everyone has a responsibility to protect it. In a solitary role of a writer, I frequently struggle to find social opportunities to satisfy my propensity for fun, and believe that a creative hub in my local area would help to celebrate the wonderfully innovative, uniquely talented artists in our community. As we approach the annual Figurama, organised by Jean G. Owen of Naked Fig Leaf Press, let's hope that the Isle of Wight creatives can continue to collaborate and contribute to our creative island.
An event to mark 100 years of Villa Find by William Dalgleish. A Roman villa uncovered on the Isle of Wight a century ago is being celebrated with a special community event. The Newport Roman Villa will host the event on March the 28th to mark 100 years since its discovery. It was found during building work and later identified as a 3rd century Roman farmhouse. To commemorate the anniversary, the Isle of Wight Heritage Service is offering an entry to the site from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for just £1 per person. Dr. Rachel Tate, museum curator, said, "This centenary event isn't just about marking 100 years since the villa was found, it's about celebrating the islanders who helped protect it. From the local people who crowded around the excavation in 1926 to those who continue to visit and support us today, the villa's story is really a community story. We're proud to care for this remarkable site and delighted to welcome people back to rediscover it a century on. Visitors will have the chance to explore the villa's preserved bath suite, the underfloor heating system, and the reconstructed Roman-style garden."
Keeper legend Shilton coming to exclusive event. England goalkeeping legend Peter Shilton is coming to the island this spring, with fans invited to a special pre-World Cup 2026 event at Medina Theatre. The show, presented by Seamless Entertainment, will take place on Saturday, May the 30th, and promises to be an in-depth look back at one of English football's most storied careers. Shilton, who remains England's record appearance holder, played for his country over 2 decades between 1970 and 1990, featuring at 3 World Cups and 2 European Championships. The event will see Shilton take to the stage for a live and unscripted interview hosted by broadcaster Richard Graves, followed by an audience Q&A session. The evening will be packed with stories from his time in the game, including memories of the infamous Hand of God World Cup quarter-final against Diego Maradona's Argentina, which marks its 40th anniversary this year. A limited VIP meet and greet package will run from 6 p.m. to 7:15 p.m, offering fans the chance to meet the England legend before the main show gets underway from 7:30 p.m. The night will also feature displays of sporting memorabilia and a charity silent auction raising funds for a local cause. Tickets are on sale now from the Medina Theatre box office on 01983 823 884 or online at www.medinatheatre.co.uk.
Festival acts announced. John Giddings has named the latest acts to take part in the Isle of Wight Festival on Saturday, June the 20th, with pop sensation Rita Ora taking to the main stage ahead of a massive evening feature, Teddy Swims and Calvin Harris. Other acts announced include indie rock favourites Circa Waves and Nathan Evans and The Saint, PHNX Band, rising star Tom A. Smith, Indie Quartet Overpass and the guest list will also perform. They join the Lewis Capaldi, Calvin Harris and The Cure for the event at Seaclose Park, which takes place June the 18th to the 21st.
Campaign is celebrating our crucial village halls. A public event will be held at Motterston Gardens to mark Village Halls Week. Celebrations began on Monday, March 16th, as part of a national event highlighting the value of community spaces. The campaign shines a light on the programmes, activities and opportunities offered by village halls in rural areas. Community Action Isle of Wight, CAIW, in partnership with the National Trust, will host a public event at Motterston Gardens on Sunday, March the 22nd, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. A CAIW spokesperson said, "We are delighted to be celebrating Village Halls Week once again. Events like this highlight just how important village halls are to communities across the island. While many may see village halls as simply part of rural life, they are much more than bricks and mortar. They are welcoming community spaces where people can meet, learn new skills, stay active, and feel connected to others." The Motterston Gardens event will showcase village halls across the island, featuring talks, demonstrations, crafts, wellbeing activities, stalls, and live entertainment. The week-long campaign across the Isle of Wight forms part of the National Village Halls Week.
Lovely Memories of Days Gone By Pam Davis in Newport. After reading that very moving column that Matthew Chatfield wrote, that was CP 06/03/26, I felt that I had to reply. My sister and I quite often sit and reminisce about the good old days. In our minds we walk down through Newport High Street and name the shops that we used to have. But what sticks in my memory the most was when I was a child in the 50s, when every Saturday morning I would go to the Odeon Cinema Club. We would watch films and cartoons, everything that kids loved. I can also remember taking part in a yo-yo competition up on the stage. Oh, I was hopeless. The cinema was always packed with excited children. I can still remember mostly the song that was sung every week. It went like this. We come along on Saturday morning, greeting everybody with a smile. We come along on Saturday morning knowing it's well worth while. As members of the Odeon Club, we all intend to be good citizens when we grow up and champions of the free. We come along on Saturday morn, greeting everyone with a smile. Smile, smile, greeting everyone with a smile. Such lovely memories of days gone by.
Seeking Cook Descendants by Judy Hunter from Melbourne in Australia. I am seeking contact with any descendants of William Samuel Cook and Sarah Ann, who married at East Cowes, March 1881. Their 4 children were William Robert, Ethel Mary, Alice Matilda and Albert George, all born in East Cowes. William married Emma Heath at Fulham, London in 1916, and they migrated to Australia after the First World War. Ethel married Colin Campbell in Portsmouth in 1909. Alice married John White in Gosport in 1905. Albert married Florence Rogers in East Cowes in 1918. I am the granddaughter of William Robert Cook, and I seek to contact any descendants of the 4 siblings as I seek to understand more about the Cook family and their lives through contact with any descendants. I will be visiting the Isle of Wight during early June and would love to meet with any descendants if at all possible, to meet maybe in Cowes. Please contact me via email judybushwalking@gmail.com.
My last letter. A bargain. Pull the other one. Dear Editor, I am usually a lurker on your excellent soapbox page, interested in other people's opinions, not moved to write myself. A letter from Liuan Jihu, who claimed that immigration cost island households just 13p each. In my view, it was wrong of the Isle of Wight Observer to single out only the cost of social care paid by the Isle of Wight Council, which allowed Mr. Jehu to make such a misleading claim. Neither national nor local government has any money of its own. It is all taxpayers' money, and your article overlooked the wider financial burden and social issues involved in housing, feeding and educating migrants, as well as the huge costs of processing unfounded asylum claims. This week we learn the outcome of the case of Cleavish Disha, who has won the right to remain in Britain despite entering illegally under a false identity. Lying in an asylum claim and later jailed for 2 years after being found with £250,000 in unexplained cash. Although the Home Office sought his deportation, a judge ruled that removal would be unduly harsh on his 11-year-old son, conceived while Disha was here illegally, who struggles with some foods and has special educational needs. Reading the full judgment, that's the Isle of Wight.observer/case-Disha, rather than the headlines, makes clear just how expensive meeting those needs is. And it is not as though Mr. Disha fears persecution. The judgment records that he, his partner and their children visit Albania at least once a year. Cases like this raise legitimate questions about the true cost and the legitimacy of the entire system, and who is really paying for it. Like so many people, I can't help feeling we are being taken for a ride and have become the laughing stock of the world. This is by J. Davis of Newport.
Chivalry Lives by Margaret Rylands, Newport. I would like, through your pages, to highlight the chivalry shown by Neil and Chris at Sainsbury's petrol station this week. For the first time ever, I put diesel into my petrol car and had no idea what to do. I spoke to Chris in the kiosk, and he and Neil were immediately reassuring. They pushed my car out of the way, contacted a recovery firm, and arranged for me to have a lift home. I am disabled, but I'm sure they would have been as pleasant, cheerful, and helpful with everyone. They certainly saved my day and ensured I will remain a Sainsbury's customer. Thank you both. And it's goodbye from Sam.
And goodbye from Valerie.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
Hello. Visually impaired alpine skier Neil Simpson was undoubtedly the high point for the GB team in last week's 50th anniversary Winter Paralympics in Italy. His silver in the visually impaired men's alpine combined skiing completed his full set of Paralympic medals: gold, bronze and now silver. But it has to be admitted that for the team as a whole, it was a moment to cling on to in what was, in medal terms at least, a largely disappointing performance overall. Just the one medal, our poorest haul in the Games since 2010. Disappointing, but not altogether surprising. And over the next few minutes, we'll be talking to some more visually impaired members of the team, their chef de mission and commentator and reporter Ed Harry about possible reasons for that, but also, I suspect, why they think it was all worthwhile and an investment for the future. Paralympics GB chef de mission Phil Smith, you've been quoted as saying that the low medal count was only half the story. What's the other half then?
The other half of the story, I think, was some very near misses. I think the real positive around the performance overall. Yes, there was only one medal, but 2 fourth places, 2 fifth places, 2 DNFs for Neil and Rob, so did not finish back. Not just were they trying to get a medal at that point, they were flying down the course and in contention for gold medals in both of those events. So whilst obviously we'll look back with an element of what if and what might have happened, there are some really positive stories coming out of the games alongside that silver medal from a performance perspective, but also some really exciting and promising debuts from a number of athletes that bode really well for the future.
And that's the point. You did have a lot of debutantes this time, and we'll come back to that. But I want to turn straight away to one of our most experienced and successful VI Paralympians, certainly in medal terms, with 6 to her credit in 2 previous games, Menna Fitzpatrick. Welcome back to the programme, Menna. Now, you came despite serious injuries over the past 18 months. A broken leg, then a cruciate ligament injury. I guess you were not really fully fit, were you?
To be honest, the knee held up really well. I think it's one of those things is like you never know what happens in ski racing. And as we've seen from Neil and Rob, that anything can happen. So you've sort of got to be in it to win it almost. But yeah, unfortunately, the preparation just wasn't there for me with 2 big injuries. I've done 1 race in 2 years. So yeah, a bit of a stretch, not going to lie.
But you did want to be there. I mean, did you want to be there simply for being there, but also maybe in terms of helping the number of debutants there were?
Yeah, I mean, being one of the most experienced on the teams does have its benefits, and knowing how a Paralympics works, it can be quite daunting in your first games. So yeah, I kind of be the shoulder to cry on and the advice person, I think, for especially a few of them, for sure.
A couple of things I want to ask you as an experienced skier. I mean, a lot of people have said that conditions were quite challenging for visually impaired athletes specifically. Tricky light, and this one puzzled me as a non-skier, too much snow. Can you explain?
Yeah, so for us as VIs, we do a lot by the feeling underneath the skis, and if there's too much snow, that sort of interrupts that connection, but it also makes it really unpredictable because you've got hard snow and a hard surface underneath and then a layer of really thick stuff over the top, which can be really unbalanced and really unpredictable. But it also means a lot of waiting around because they have to do a lot of course preparation, so that's a added thing for energy and athletes to be aware of.
Now, one of the points that we've already made is that we did bring over to Italy an inexperienced team. 17 out of our 25 strong team were Paralympic debutants, as we've said. Let's talk to 2 of them, Hester Poole and Fred Warburton. Hester, I guess you didn't really come expecting a medal, did you? Only 18 and on your first games?
Yeah, no, the expectation for me was in fact nothing, which is something I've been working really hard on in the run up to the games, because I know about myself and the team knows that I am very competitive. I always want the best for myself and I won't be satisfied if I don't give that. So there was a lot of work behind the scenes to sort of throw some cold water over me and go, hang on a second, you're not going to get any medals. So you're just going to go there and learn about how the games works, because the thing about your first games is you're so busy being totally overwhelmed by the entire experience that there's not much room for anything else.
You did have that heartbreaking experience, and it was part of it that I did listen to and watch on television, of looking as if you'd done a successful run in the slalom only to be disqualified. What went wrong? Can you just tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely the affirmation person crying on the shoulder.
Right.
It was hard. It hurt because I'd also had a really unfortunate crash in the GS 2 days before that. So what happened is what is called a straddle, where instead of both skis going around a gate, you accidentally get one caught around the other end of the gate, which is a disqualification. It was so close to the end. It was so hard. And not even my guide knew. I had to be the one to tell him at the end.
Well, the television commentator didn't know either.
No,
They were
They
getting
knew.
congratulated you were.
Yeah. They only knew because my body language at the end of the run, and also that I admitted it on Channel 4. So what if?
Still, it's all learning, isn't it?
It is
Yeah.
all learning, yeah.
Let me bring in Fred Warburton. Tell me how you came to be here, because you were only diagnosed with the condition retinitis pigmentosa 6 or 7 years ago. How did you come to be suddenly hurtling downhill in the Paras?
It's a funny story. I married a wonderful Italian lady called Mickey, and we moved out to Italy sort of 3 or 4 years ago. And I started going on some skiing trips with her. Her family are really avid skiers. And I decided to take skiing much more seriously to impress my father-in-law.
I mean, were you skiing before you began to lose your sight?
Yeah, so I'd skied sort of 7 or 8 times as a real youngster. And then I had a big pause because I sort of pursued a slightly different athletic career in decathlon. But yeah, so I skied sort of 10, 12 times before I decided to pursue this crazy mission to ski in the Paralympic Games. We're acutely aware that we are playing catch up in some respects, having not sort of been training and ski racing from a very young age. So we've set up shop in the Italian Alps. We ski as much as we can with my guide James, and he's actually been living in the spare room of our apartment there.
I'm glad you mentioned James and the guides, because I think what intrigues many people watching VI Winter Paralympians is the role of and the relationship with your guides. Can I get you to explain how that works and the importance of a good rapport with the guides? I'll start with you, Fred, because I think you've got James Hannam, your guide, with you.
Yes. I'm fully reliant on James. He's my eyes and my brain as we're flying down the hill at over 110, 115 kilometres an hour. And he does an amazing job of keeping me on track.
I mean, the thing perhaps that not everyone knows is that there's no contact between you, no tactile contact, but the guide is ahead. James, just explain what you do.
So my job is to pick the line that Fred will ski down the hill and communicate to him while skiing what we're doing. So Fred can ski the tip of my ski boots, and when my ski boots turn in, he knows it's time for him to turn his ski boots in. In addition to that, on the way down, I'm speaking and telling about terrain changes and telling about the snow conditions, and I'm telling about any light changes. We have a two-way radio communication system within our helmets, so we can both speak to each other on the way down.
And Fred, you still have enough sight to kind of keep him in you can see him okay, can you?
Yeah, so I have a very restricted field of vision. Like many people and many of your listeners, I have retinitis pigmentosa. It's quite a common condition that has resulted in quite severe tunnel vision for me. But of course, it's degenerative and my eyesight's always changing.
I want to bring in Ed Harry. You reported this year for 5 Live and BBC World Service. As far as our visually impaired competitors are concerned, what will stick in your mind? What have been the highlights for you?
I think Neil Simpson winning his silver medal. Ultimately, Paralympics GB's only medal of the Games. The Alpine Combined is a Super G run, followed by a slalom run later that same day. In the Super G run, Neil and his guy Rob Poth finished 4th, and then they were the fastest down the slalom run. That's how they pulled themselves up from 4th into silver. And we began by talking about the fine margins. In the subsequent races, the giant slalom and the slalom, that performance that Neil and Rob gave in the slalom part of the Alpine Combined, that got everybody really excited about more medals. But it is fine margins. It is finding those extra hundredths, tenths of seconds, whatever you need. And Neil running wide in the giant slalom during his first run, straddling a gate in the slalom race, not finishing either. It's moments, isn't it? And I think parasport, any sport, can be pretty cruel, because whether it's a Paralympic Games or an Olympic Games or a FIFA World Cup, it's not just about being the best. It's about being the best once every 4 years. And for Menna to continue to ski, to get stronger and more confident through the week and finish with her best position of the week. There were no medals this time, but I think that is also the mark of a champion, that you come back and you compete and you seek to bring your very best.
And Ed, sparing their blushes, what about the newbies? Who are the potential winners for 2030, do you think?
The visual impairment category is something Great Britain has huge experience of. 5 VI athletes in alpine skiing, matched by the 5 athletes in para snowboarding across the upper and lower limb impairment classifications. GB is good at this. And to have Hester, who we've been hearing from, a little bit older, Fred making his debut as well, Sam Cousins as well, we should mention in the men's event.
He's only 19, isn't he?
He's only 19 as well. So you've got 2 teenagers in this squad. And look, it was in the visual impairment classification that Great Britain won its very first Paralympic gold. That was Kelly Gallagher and her guide Charlotte Evans at the Games in Sochi in 2014. I think this is something that Britain is invested in terms of the British Paralympic Association. But I have to say as well, this visual impairment category is one of the most competitive. There were Austrian siblings, Veronika and Johannes Eigner. They dominated these races in Milan Cortina. Veronika won 4 golds, Johannes won 3. They won all of Austria's gold medals at the Games between them, those 2 siblings. They weren't unbeatable. Neil beat Johannes when he won that silver medal. But it's just an illustration of how hard it is to win these races. And you do that by having strength and depth of your own, which I think, if you like, the foundations laid at this Games, we'll see that bearing a bit more fruit when we get to 2030.
Thank you, Ed, very much. Getting a bit tight for time, but Phil Smith, I'd like to bring you back. It's not all about skiing and slalom, of course. You've got a number of projects to get more disabled youngsters involved in sport, whether Paralympic or at a more grassroots level. Just explain a bit about the movement's plans for more inclusion in sport.
We have a project called Equal Play. Currently, only 1 in 4 children with a disability have regular access to physical education, and we work really closely and hardly with government and with the education sector to try and change that, because obviously as an elite sporting team, Paralympics GB, we are really interested in who the next Paralympians are. But actually, as an organisation that has the ability to hopefully inspire and change some of this policy around the accessibility of PE for school children. And it is really, really important to us that it isn't just about the elite end. This is about participation and opportunities for children with a disability up and down the UK.
Well, thank you all very much indeed. Menna Fitzpatrick, Phil Smith, Hester Poole, Fred Warburton and his guide James, Ed Harry. You were all brilliant. And that's it for today. But if you'd like to share, comment, question or experience about your sporting achievements at whatever level, you can email in touch at bbc.co.uk or leave a voice message on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, producer Beth Hemmings and all our guests, goodbye.
Scaffolding and Skips news for the week commencing 23rd of March 2026. In the Ryde area, 141 High Street, 95 George Street, Chapel Court, Union Street, Ryde area skips 31 Daniel Street, opposite the Masonic Hall, Ferry Road, Seaview, 84 Howgate Road, Bembridge.
Cowes and East Cowes area. The Portland Inn, Worsley Road, Gurnard. Number 1 and July Cottage, Bars Hill. Cowes area skips. 18 Albert Street. 24 Love Lane.
Ventnor area, Old Town Hall Court, Albert Street. Ventnor Youth Centre, Victoria Street.
Sandown area, 52 Fitzroy Street. The Bayshore Hotel, Esplanade. Alveston Farmhouse, Main Road, Alveston. Napoleon Landing, Esplanade. The Sandown area skips. 29 Alfred Road, Lake.
Shanklin area, Copper Kettle, 29 High Street.
Totland area skips. 24 The Avenue.